Hi, I'm Anthony Davidson. Welcome to Autosport's in-depth look at Codemasters F1 2010. From my side, I wanted to make it difficult as what I would want a video game to be. Not purely spinning off on every corner and crashing into barriers and bits falling off the car. I didn't want it to be like that because I've played so many sim games before where you make one small error, you just touch another car, all your bodywork falls off and your race is over, and that's not very fun. So it boils down to making it fun, like the real thing is. And in a way, sometimes I find video games are actually more difficult than driving the real car. So to get that kind of pure driving and at a very close level where every tenth really makes a difference, that's what I wanted to try and achieve. All I wanted to achieve from F1 2010 was a very playable game, a game that was very good online, because that's generally the way gaming's going for the future, and for the present for that fact. So I've played too many simulations where you're out by first corner, or there are too many people that have found a trick with a setup that walk away into the distance, and you know, that as a driver, that's not really what it's all about. It's about driving, about being better around a corner than someone else and letting your team work with you on the setup. So I found that always frustrating. I wanted to achieve something that was fun, more importantly, that over anything else, fun to play. Something that was a true representation of what it's like to live the life of a Formula 1 driver and go through all the turmoil, the ups and downs of what it's like, and something that looked graphically impressive and every detail right on the tracks, because I've always been able to pick up a Formula 1 game and pick holes in the detail straight away, whereas on this one I just love getting into the car, round Spa, in the wet, going up a rouge, following another car, and you're blinded by the spray just like you would be on a real car. And it's moments like that that really do it for me. You know, it's when I realised that we've all achieved exactly what we all set out to do. Yeah, I do want to point out actually that was my very first go around Brazil in the wet, so that's why I lost a few positions. But the thing that made me lose position was being tentative. I didn't trust where the grip was, and that's what catches out drivers in real life as well. And you know, I've driven that track in the wet myself, and watched many races in the wet, and it's a tough one to get right, particularly under braking into turn one, which I fluffed as well. So it goes to show there are a lot of elements that are very realistic, and locking up your front brakes going into that corner, just a passenger as you sail on wide. And the bit I really liked as well is that the AI drivers make mistakes, and that's something I wanted to see in the game as well, because obviously you do see drivers make a lot of mistakes through the year. They shouldn't be robots out there, they shouldn't feel like there's no personality. So I sat down with the team and did explain the art of defending and different attributes that other drivers have up and down the grid. And I think all of that's in there. You know, different drivers have different strengths and weaknesses in the wet or the dry, and some are more aggressive than others as well. So things like that are definitely included in the game, and I think you can see quite a bit of that already just from that short clip of me playing in Brazil. I didn't want to be bombarding people with limitless options on the setup, because it's more about just getting out there and driving and getting to grips with the track, like it is in real life. You don't arrive at Monza and then have a big debrief amongst you. Are we going to run Monaco wings or Monza or this ratio or this tool 7th gear or very short? You don't do that. It's all predetermined. So the setup in Formula 1 is very limited, and you can only ever really gain or lose about 4 or 5 tenths from setup, because they're so good at doing the simulations before you go there. So I didn't want to, like I say, create a minefield for people to jump into. So like I say, go to Monza or Monaco and suddenly have the whole spectrum. You don't get that. It's much more limited, but in a way a lot more realistic as well, like you would get.
So Live the Life really is us trying to inject what Formula 1 is about outside of the track. So we have the trackside stuff, you've got the garage where everybody's milling around and you can feel the intensity of a race weekend, but beyond that, in the paddock, what we really wanted to inject is that kind of bit more personality and a bit more play around the world of Formula 1. It's such a big media event these days, it's such a big build-up across the 3 days of the race weekend that we wanted to put the media in front of the player as well. So if you have a poor result or you're not beating your teammate, those kind of things spark stories in the media. So maybe you're midway through the championship, you're doing particularly well, and the media are interested in who you consider to be your biggest rival. Is it going to be Vettel? Is it going to be Webber, or is it going to be Button? And then they play on these things throughout the rest of the year as well. So what we're really trying to get is those highs and lows throughout the year, where they call you out later on in the season and say, well, you said at this point you'd be way ahead of Webber and you're not, or you should be beating your teammate. Does that damage your chances of going on to another drive next year, or do you think your contract's going to be cancelled? Those kind of things, where instead of just a screen popping up and giving you some stats to tell you how well you're doing, you actually get an early warning over your career from the media, because they start with all these rumours. You know, oh, is my contract going to be cancelled? Oh, Ferrari's interested in me. Oh, I might be able to go here next season. Or, look, the game world is understanding the fact that I am beating my teammate and doing particularly well, even though I'm not getting great results. I'm beating these kind of things. It kind of reflects your ability in the game in a far more personal way. And actually, I think anybody that watches Formula 1 and watches that build up across race weekend will recognise what we're doing. And I think, whilst there's an awful lot of that in this year's game, I think there's a lot more to play on in the future as well.
I'll never forget the first time I went to Monaco in Formula 1. It's a daunting place, and to drive anything around there it demands a lot of skill from any driver. And you get a similar kind of feeling, even if you're well up to speed on F1 2010, that you go to Monaco and it's a different beast completely. It's very hard to pick your way and thread your way through the barriers at Monaco, just like it is in real life. And eventually, as the track starts rubbering in, because that's in the game as well, obviously, as the track rubbers in, you get more familiar with your car around there, you start risking it more against the barriers, and in the end you find, just like in real life as well, that you've got an incredible, almost like a trance, that you can drive around flat out and getting very, very close to the barriers without making mistakes. And yeah, you get this same rhythm that you do in real life, and it's impressive when you feel like that playing a game. You almost question yourself, how are you doing this? Because you're threading it around without making mistakes, and it's the same as that in real life as well. You learn where each bump and curve is on the track, and what barrier you can get close to or not, and it's little details like that that we really worked hard on to get right. I'm really satisfied with where we've got to in such a short space of time. There's a lot to do in the first build of a game or any simulation-based platform, really. So, you know, I'm still working on the Mercedes simulator down in Brackley, and it's just an ongoing development. And you know, at the end of the day, tyre models, aero models, it's very hard to calculate in ones and zeros. So to get that into a game that's very playable, that's the challenge. So I think we've done extremely well, but there's always scope for improvement, and it's only going to get better from here.